Hello, in this video, we're going to look at our fourth learning objective in our chapter 2. We're going to learn the level of the measurement. So why is it important? Because different kind of measurement will contain different amount of the information. And on this PowerPoint, I creating this kind of like a flowchart style, like from nominal to ratio. And later I'm going to use the whiteboard to explaining one by one. So in general, we have 4 scale of measurement. So we totally have 4 level of the measurement, starting from nominal, then ordinal, and then interval and the ratio. So you cannot mix the order of this 4 scale measurement, and I'm going to explaining why, and along with explaining what is nominal, ordinal, interval, and the ratio. Okay. So to help you remember this 4 scale of measurement, I want to place it like this way. N O I R. Okay, so if you're familiar with like a French, I believe NOIR, N-O-I-R, stands for dark. So when you're thinking about the 4 scale measurement, I do want you to remember this word NOIR because, like I said, the 4 levels of the measurement, the order of them cannot be switched. We need to start it from the nominal and then ordinal, interval, and ratio. Okay, so starting from here, nominal. Okay, as you think about the nominal, and I want you to connect this with the word N stands related to name. Okay, so every time we are thinking about the data that can use nominal to measure it, that means we only care about the variable's name. So we only care about the variable's name, then we will use the nominal scale measurement to measure it. So for instance, the car brand. So here I give you example like a car brand. You have VW, BMW, Mini Cooper, Tesla. So when we think about this variable called the car brand, right? So this is the variable we're using the nominal scale of measurement to measure it because we only care about the name itself. Okay, and then the next one, it's called ordinal. So when you think about ordinal, I want you to connect the ordinal here with the word called order. Okay, so when we move on to the ordinal scale of measurement to measure the data, that means we care about data's name and the order. Okay, so we not only just care about name now, we care about the name and the order of that value. So for instance, your class standing. So we have freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, right? As we know, for each class standings value, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, they are named. But not only that, from freshman to senior, each name means you are taking more credits. So therefore, when we are using the level of the measurement to measure the class standing, we're going to use the ordinal scale measurement because we care not only the name of each categories or each attribute, but also we care about the orders. Okay, care about the orders. So later I can give you more example. Okay, so from the beginning, the name, to later we have name and order. Now we move on to the next, called the interval, right? So when we move on to the interval scale measurement, we do care about the attribute's name, and we also care about attribute's order, similar as the ordinal, right? But besides that, the difference between the 2 attributes, that numeric value, had a specific meaning. So the interval So not only just the name order, but that the differences between the 2 attributes start to making sense. Okay, so for instance, temperature. As everybody know, here we use Fahrenheit. Where I grew up, we use Celsius. Okay, so let's see, today's temperature is a 70 degree, and then tomorrow is 80 degrees. So what does this mean? So this means tomorrow will be 10 degree hotter than today, right? So the difference between these two give us 10. So that interval between 70 to 80 tell us there will be 10 degree hotter tomorrow, right? So if you go back to look at our ordinal scale measurement, the differences between the two levels doesn't have any meaning. So what does that mean? Sophomore minus freshman doesn't mean anything, right? But here we do have meaning. So the differences between the attribute, right, 80 degree to 70 degree give us that 10 degree now have the statistical meaning. Okay, as you can see, from nominal to ordinal to interval, each scale measurement we adding more information we needed, right? So like I said, interval, not only the name and order, but also the interval itself has meaning. Okay, so the last one is called a ratio. So as we talk about the ratio scale measurement, I want you to focus on the last one is called O. So O also means 0, right? So why I want to emphasize that. So when we consider the data use a ratio scale measurement to measure it, because we need to know the name of the attribute and the order of each attribute, and then the interval of each attribute between attribute had the meaning, and then most importantly, this also including absolute 0. So what does that mean, absolute 0? Let me give you an example. You will know what do I mean by the absolute 0. Oops. So give you an example here. Let's think about income. Oh, sorry, not income. The money in the bank account. Okay, so this variable is the money in bank account. Okay, so let's see, you have $60 today. Tomorrow you have, next month you have $120. Let's see that. Okay, so first of all, the attribute had name, right? $60 versus $120. And then they had the order, $120. You make more than you have more than money than $60. And also the interval make sense, right? From today $60 to next month $120. That means you make actual $60. And now I want to spend some time to explaining this absolute 0 means. Okay, so what does this absolute 0 mean? So let's see, the bank account has $0. Okay, now your bank account has $0. My question is, do you have any money in the bank account? The answer is no. So if you have a 0 balance in your bank account, that means you just don't have any money, right? How about here? If you think about the temperature, if I said, hey, the temperature tomorrow is going to be 0 degree, your thought is going to be, hey, it's going to be cold, but you won't say, hey, the temperature is no longer there, right? So that is what I mean by absolute 0. So when you're thinking the data are able to use the ratio scale measurement to measure it, that is when that absolute 0 definitely exists. So for the temperature, when we measure by Fahrenheit or Celsius, and that absolute 0 just means very cold. It does not mean we don't have temperature. So in that scenario, we cannot use the absolute 0. We cannot use the ratio to measure it. We actually use the interval scale measure to measure it. However, like the example here, the money in the bank account. So as you know, when the variable value equal to 0, that means really that variable does not exist, right? So the money in bank account equal to 0, that means you don't have any money, so no money. So therefore, the money in the bank account, we has to use a ratio scale measurement to measure it instead of interval. Okay, now as you know why this order of the 4 scale measurement is very important. Oops. As we move from the top. As we move from the nominal to ratio data, we are adding more and more information to each scale measurement. So for each level of the measurement, allow us to containing more and more information. So in another way, if the data we collected is considered as nominal data, we are not able to convert it to ratio or interval. However, if the data is collected through interval or ratio, we are able to convert it to nominal or ordinal, right? So for instance, I give you an example. And when some students collect the survey data, they ask people's age. And so I usually recommend students, hey, just ask the age directly. Because sometimes students tend to ask them as an age group, like 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. Well, the reason I was asking that is because when you ask them question specific age, the data you are collected is as interval data, right? You have 0 year newborn, 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old. So that's interval data. It's very easy for you to convert it to age group, because for the age group, that is the ordinal data, right? Age group is ordinal data. However, if you initially collect the data as ordinal data, then age group, you will never be able to figure out each individual what their age should look like, right? So that's one thing you need to pay attention about, the level, how you ask question, the type of data you are able to collect. And so this is from nominal to ratio, and you are adding more and more information. So here I give you more examples, like nominal, including the sales, proprietary, corporation name, partnership. So here's the form of the businesses for federal tax purpose, right? As you can see, there are just a bunch of names. There is no order. And then so for the ordinal, Moody's bond rating, AAA, capital A, double A. And then so it's better than the AA, than the A. So they are just categories, but as you move from the top to the bottom, the company's credibility is going down. So there's order. And so for the interval data here, I share another example is the scales from very poor to very good. And then so one thing I want to call out, because next one we're going to focus on the scale, is that if you consider the scale is interval data, that means from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, the distance between them are the same. So there is on the assumption as that. However, if you think that you decide the scale from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, the different distance between them are not the same. So if that's the case, instead of interval data, you should consider that as the ordinal data. Okay, so the next is our ratio data example. Like here it has any math operation allow mean, standard deviation, ratio logs. So like annual dental visit. If you have 0 dental visit, that means you never visited. So therefore, you had the absolute 0 included. Okay, so here's more example. Okay, so before we move on to practice question, I want to share a summarization. So the nominal and the ordinal both are category data. Nominal, ordinal, both are category data. If the data can use the interval ratio to measure it, it will be the quantitative data. And so nominal data has only categories, ordinal not only the category but also the rank has meaning. So the interval adding another layer of information, that is the distance between the two attributes, actually has a meaning now. And then for the last one, the ratio is that one also including the absolute 0. Okay. Now let's work on the practice question together to help you further understanding the full skill measurement. Of course, when you work on your homework assignment, you're going to see more questions related to this 4, but it's very important that you fully digest the information from this video. Okay, so which measure level is each of the following variable? And explain it. Number of hits in game 1 of the next World Series. So the number of hits in the game 1. And then so as you think about the number of hits in game, you can hit once, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 0, right? If you have 0, that means you don't have any hits. The hits doesn't exist. So therefore, it does have absolute 0 in that sense. So the first one will be the ratio skill measurement. Okay. B, field position of the randomly chose baseball player. It can be catcher, pitcher. So those are just names, and for those names, it doesn't have any rank. Although maybe you have preference, and that preference is not actually the rank, which one is better, right? So they are just different position, different kind of attributes name. So in that sense, it will be just nominal skill measurement. We only care about attributes name we don't care about the order. Next, temperature on opening days measured by Celsius. I already mentioned about Fahrenheit, so now measured by Celsius. So first of all, it is not nominal or ordinal, because temperature, the differences between temperature, that interval, right, has a meaning. So the question is, does it weigh including absolute zero? So let's see, if the temperature for the opening day is 0 Celsius, that means just very cold. It doesn't mean we don't have temperature. So therefore, we don't have absolute zero. So therefore, this is going to be an interval scale measurement. Okay, temperature is interval. Next, salary of the randomly chosen American League pitcher. Okay, so although it's very impossible for the pitcher get a $0 salary, but as we know, if the pitcher get a $0 salary, means they don't get any salary, right? So again, the salary, as you're thinking about salary, you automatically know it cannot be nominal or ordinal, because it's not just about the name of attribute. The differences, the interval between different salary actually had a meaning now, but the key here is, does this salary including absolute zero? So we do have absolute zero, because when the salary equals zero, we don't earn any salary, right? So therefore, D is the ratio scale of measurement. Okay, so the last one, freeway traffic on opening days have light, medium, and heavy. So there were 3 options for you to choose from: light, medium, and heavy. So first of all, they are the name of our attribute. Okay, they are the categories. In the second, as we can see, from light to heavy, the traffic get busier, right? So therefore, we do have a rank from light to medium to heavy. So therefore, it's going to be the ordinal scale of measurement. So the freeway traffic on opening day is the ordinal scale of measurement. And hopefully this practice question also get you ready for a homework assignment. Good luck.